It's the all-wheel drive event at Lithia Ford of Boise. From hunting trips to ski trips to trips to Grandma's house. Nobody does AWD like LFB, Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
Eat Lux your way with the Lux Cravings boxes from Taco Bell. There's the classic $5 box, the indulgent $7 box, and a whole new obsession in the $9 box, the flaming hot grilled cheese burrito. Try the Lux Cravings boxes at Taco Bell today.
Find your sun with Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea. Made with real iced tea and real vodka. Cold, refreshing, and made for moments like these all year long. Let the good times cruise with Sun Cruiser.
As sports fans, we may cheer for different teams, but there's one thing that we can all agree on. We want the game to be big. And with 3 levels, 30 cabanas, a 143-foot screen, 6 clean pools, and endless cold drinks, it doesn't get any bigger or any better than Stadium Swim in Las Vegas. All sports, all seasons. It's more than a pool deck. Stadium Swim. It's the only thing like it in the world.
The final buzzer is sounded on another night of Mountain West basketball, and it's time to break down the action with Tom Moser on another night in the Mountain West, presented by Circa Sports. Headed to Las Vegas for the Mountain West tournament in March? Make sure to stay at Circa Las Vegas and watch all the action at Stadium Swim, where the sports are on 365 days a year. Another night in the Mountain West has interviews, analysis, opinions after the final Mountain West basketball game of the day wraps up. All BNN broadcasts come from the Sun Cruiser Studios. Sunny days call for Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea, made with real iced tea and real vodka. It's refreshingly smooth and easy to drink. Crack open a Sun Cruiser and let the good times cruise. The title sponsor of Bronco Nation News is Lithia Ford of Boise. Check out our full inventory of vehicles online at lithiafordboise.com. Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho. Did your team just get a big win? Suffer a bad loss? Come discuss it with us. Send us a comment or question in the ICCU YouTube chat, or leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/BNN. Now let's go to the Sun Cruiser Studios and join Tom Moser for another night in the Mountain West on Bronco Nation News.
What's up, everybody? You guys wondered why we decided to title this show Another Night in the Mountain West. You guys know why, right? Just another night in the Mountain West is appropriate for Wednesday night, January 21st. As we just watched Grand Canyon, 670-69, hold off, come back, a lot of different adjectives you could use to describe it. That was the final 70-69 in Phoenix. So their second consecutive, I can't really call this one an upset because technically they were favored, but big win for the Lopes. So plenty of stuff to get to on that. Second game tonight, or the first game, we'll talk about that as well. I'll look ahead a little bit to Friday, have a couple other random thoughts on things, and we'll go from there. So I'm your host, Tom Moser. Let's talk about Sun Cruiser, one of our sponsors. Appreciate them being along for the ride. Go get yourself some Sun Cruiser. Also, go subscribe to the YouTube channel. You see it scrolling here in a second at the bottom, at Mountain West BNN. On YouTube, got a bunch of subscriptions today. Look, it doesn't cost you anything. Just click the subscribe button. All you need is a YouTube account. So most people have YouTube accounts anyway. So just click subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything. Doesn't hurt. Helps me out. Helps the show out. All that good stuff. Gets us more recognized. Gets more people to follow and come along. Now, let's talk about what we just watched. I know, let's just get it out of the way. I know we're going to have plenty of comments, maybe not in here now, but at some point on social media, tomorrow, media in general, whatever, about the call at the end. Yeah, I don't like it, right? I don't like it. I'm on the record, and I get in arguments with people about this all the time as to not wanting calls there at the end, period. I said that in the I guess, I don't even remember what game it was anymore, but I'm not a fan. Oh, I guess it was Boise San Diego State, right? I'm just not a fan of calls at the end of games, all right, unless it's blatant. That wasn't probably even a foul with 10 minutes left, right? Because people would say, well, if it's a foul with 10 minutes left, and then we go in that back and forth, right? Not a fan of calling stuff unless it's massively obvious and blatant. Okay, it can affect the play and not be called. It's just game flow and understanding the situation. I don't remember right now because I didn't watch the replay who called it there. It wasn't a good call. Shouldn't make that call with a second left. It's unfortunate that the game ended like that. It was a well played game. It was what college basketball should be, a good atmosphere, two good teams. We had some spurts of good offense. We had some spurts of good defense. There were some spurts of bad shot making, but San Diego State just chips away. They rally. They take the lead finally with, how many seconds left, right? And then to give it away like that. Now, look, I could just, and this is one of those where I'll always have a comeback, right? So when I have to hear from Aztec fans about this and that, and basically what we've seen, which I'm not surprised that this is the narrative, but the narrative that's taken place now throughout the season is that anytime there's a school leaving for the pack against a team that's staying behind, and said team staying behind gets a call, it's because it was directed that way and it's all whatever, right? I mean, look, I said it before. I hate dealing with the conspiracy stuff. What would they have done if BJ Davis, a 90% free throw shooter, makes his 2 free throws, right? He's a 90% free throw shooter. I understand 1-on-1s are beyond difficult. I've talked about that for years, okay? And when I was coaching, they were the bane of my existence. Hate them, hate them, okay? But he's a 90% free throw shooter. If he makes those 2 free throws, they're up 3. Dutcher has 2 timeouts. He likely calls timeout and sets up a situation where they foul or whatever, okay? And they likely win the game. What are the officials going to do? Call like a 4-point foul or a technical? So I don't want to hear that nonsense, right? They blew a call there at the end of the game, okay? They blew the call. It has nothing to do with favoring Grand Canyon or wanting them to win or any of that stuff, okay? The game was officiated fine. They blew too many whistles at the end of the first half, all right? Just happens, okay? And they were fine for the other 35 minutes. They made a bad call at the end, and it's very unfortunate that, I have to sit here and talk about it. I wanted to come on and start singing the Eagles song, New Kid in Town, right? That's what I was thinking most of the second half. Grand Canyon, new kid in town, just knocking off two of the three or four best teams in the conference. Now, granted, the schedules worked out for them. They got those teams both at home. But they did those are good wins. Okay. They're good wins. And so, then of course the discussion and the talk has to be about what happened at the end. And it's just unfortunate. Right. So, it was a good game. Let me put these up here for a minute. Take a look at the stats because I didn't even get to really take a look at them yet. Well, first of all, Stat Broadcast, which is usually accurate to the T. They have the wrong final up there because unless I zonked out or something, the final was 70-69. So they missed a 3 there somewhere. But anyway, I can't believe this. This is wild that the teams both shot 60%. I'm wondering if that's wrong. I might have to confirm that elsewhere. I'm not going to go digging around here as I'm trying to get these thoughts out. But that does not seem to be accurate. I mean, there's no way the Aztecs shot 60%. I feel like they missed a ton of shots in the early part of the second half, and Grand Canyon missed a ton of shots in the late part of the second half. So I don't see any way that's right. So I'm not going to really focus on the team stats. I know that the Aztecs didn't shoot the ball well most of the game, right? Certainly not from deep. And as I am going to kind of look it up here, so bear with me as I talk. He didn't shoot the ball well from deep at all. And I just, I don't know. I sent out a tweet kind of I hate to do it. That is right. How is that right? Where the Aztecs shot 24 for 40 from the field and the Lopes shot 20 for 33. That's why Grand Canyon 10 for 16 from three. I don't know. I still don't believe this. I'm going to have to confirm this later. I'm not going to pay attention to that. Let's talk about some of the reasons why we got where we got. Okay, Brian Moore showed up again for the second consecutive game. Already had 12 points, 5 of 7 from the floor. You'll take that from your point guard. Williams, who you look at that guy, you talk about like your prototypical like scoring guard. He just looks so smooth. He looks like he's going to make every shot he takes from outside. It's a very smooth, good form jump shot. 17. He hit 2 out of 3 from deep and 7 out of 8 from the line. Okay. That box is wrong because he played more than 10 minutes. So these stats are all screwed up. So I'm not going to pay much attention to the stats. I will say this, okay, and I'll get them off the screen, is that Bird taking too many threes. Okay? So I can't get an accurate reading of what he actually took until I maybe look at a website box score from one of the other teams tomorrow. But he's taken too many threes, okay? He does other things. He's a talented player. He had a couple nice blocks and doing things on a defensive end. But with Gwath already out, okay, you need your big guns to be your big guns, or else you run the risk of what happens at the end of the game, right? I often use other analogies from cross sport analogies or things from the past, right? And I referenced this documentary already, the one on the U, because I've watched it like 10 times, right? And Jimmy Johnson, when they went to play at Notre Dame, okay, and they lose, there was a controversial call. And what does Jimmy Johnson say at the end of the game? Is it him blaming the refs? Not really. He just said, look, when you go play at Notre Dame, I told my guys, we got to win the game by 10 so the officials can't take it away from us, right? So I know it's like, well, what the heck? That's not fair. Again, I can't emphasize this enough. You're on the road in college basketball, okay? There's 7,000 students there. You guys can think it's corny and you can dislike the university and not like what they stand for and think whatever. Baloney, all right? This is 2026 in college athletics, all right? This isn't 1985. Things are different, okay? They have a great home court environment. They have a great student engagement, and it's an intimidating atmosphere. Now, that was a good crew. The guy missed the call, all right? But don't put yourself in that position. Have some of your guys show up and make shots, all right? Their best player, for me, for over the course of the game was Harrington, and then Dutcher doesn't even have him on the floor at the end of the game. Why? I don't know. Maybe he fouled out. I don't think he did. Like, I don't remember hearing that he fouled out. But, he's not on the floor at the end of the game. I thought he was their best player. Instead, he's got Simmons in and DeGorville and Bird, who couldn't shoot straight. So we got 3 guys on the floor that can't score. DeGorville took a horrible shot when they were down 1 or 2 or whatever they were down. Now, he did make a big bucket later, but, they just took too many bad shots. And so you then put yourself in a position where a fluke shot or a bad call can cost you. Does it suck if you're an Aztec fan? 100%, okay? But don't put yourself in that position. Make a shot earlier in the second half, okay? And they didn't do that. They made a great run late, and they put themselves in a position, but stuff can happen then when it's a one possession game. And that's kind of what happened here. So, Grand Canyon, they are a defensive first team. And Evans, again, I tweeted this out. Why wasn't that dude playing in the non-con? How much could he have improved in the last month? Because he had a huge impact Saturday and he did it again tonight. I don't think he played a ton of minutes, but when he was out on the floor, multiple rebounds, multiple blocks. He's an intimidator inside, and he changes the dynamic of that team. He's an anchor back there, so you can play aggressive out front when you have a rim eraser. Aztec fans should know that. They had that many times over the last decade plus. So that's huge for this team, okay? As a backup guy. He's not even a starter. He's still raw. He'll get better, but again, kind of the same formula that Drew used on Saturday. Not a lot of minutes for Stromer, not a lot of minutes for Breidenbach. He uses Evans and Williams off the bench. He plays 7 guys, and he gets by when Breidenbach and Stromer are on the floor. I didn't look at the plus minus, but couldn't have been too bad. right? And so that's what you want out of your bench. That's what we didn't get last night from Utah State when Calhoun went to his bench. His guys were poor, and it cost him the game, right? Well, tonight, Drew goes to his bench, and they were able to they didn't make a lot of plays, but they didn't cost the team either, right? And now, on the other side of the coin, you're out Gwath, you're down Gwath, Newman, and Odin, they're portal guys. Those guys are basically zeros. So you have to go to your freshmen who have been good, Harrington and Simmons. In hindsight, they probably redshirted like the wrong guy. If Latrell Davis is on the roster, he's getting minutes, probably Odin's minutes. Odin doesn't really give you much, and Newman's been a bust. So, there aren't as many options for Dutcher to go to, really, okay? Which makes it difficult to win on the road against good teams, okay? Now, look, in the grand scheme of things, does it hurts, right? Because you had to win. It would have been a maybe, who knows, maybe a quad one, certainly a quad two, but maybe a quad one, maybe not, but certainly a quad two would have helped. This is one of those, doesn't hurt at all. Unless, for conference purpose sake, now they would have had a hammerlock on the race with a 2-game lead. So as it is now, there are 5 teams a game behind. 5 teams. Okay. Now there's a variety of teams there, and you can kind of, make I don't want to say a pro and con list, but a good and a bad list about each of those teams and why they could stay up there, why they're in bad shape. You look at UNLV, for tiebreaker purposes, they're probably in the best shape because their 2 losses are to CSU and Wyoming, 2 teams that aren't going to be in the mix for the top, right? So they'll have tiebreakers over everybody. Now, the problem is I, and probably most of you, don't think that they're consistent or good enough to be able to do it. But a good effort by them on Saturday against the Aztecs could change everybody's mind, okay? I mean, I and we like to rip them for what they are, right? The narrative and all that is built in. They come up and play well against the good teams after they blow a few games in a non-con, and we kind of laugh about it. And I've certainly been critical of Pastner, and I think for good reason, and many other people have too. But the fact is, maybe they're getting better, and maybe they'll be an issue for good teams moving forward here. I don't know, right? They obviously were poor at Wyoming. But, let's see what they do against the Aztecs on Saturday, because, we could be having a different conversation about them, right? Nevada, lost to San Diego State, so that doesn't help. Also lost to Utah State. So, they're bad in the tiebreakers, but they also probably have some softer games coming up then, right? New Mexico, as we discussed, they have a bad loss at Boise and a loss at at San Diego State, that's not going to hurt. They will have their schedule front loaded for good teams coming to their place, although they did host Grand Canyon already. And who else am I missing? Well, Grand Canyon's up there. They've beaten 2 of the top teams already. Utah State has a poor loss last night against UNLV. And so, again, I know we're only 35% of the way through. If you 7 out of 20 games is 35%, but look, this was a huge game in terms of setting the race. The Aztecs would have had a massive 2-game lead on everybody, and been sitting at 8-0. I guess they're 40% of the way in. So Timothy says they're a 5-way tie for second. Someone not getting the bye. Don't know the schedule, assuming Nevada at New Mexico Saturday night might be one of the better games. Yeah, for sure. And that's why I don't know if it's FS1 or CBS Sports. I have to look at it. I didn't even know until I looked at it earlier that it's an 8:00 Eastern start again, much like last Saturday's New Mexico San Diego State game was an 8:00 start. So the cable's choosing that one. And I don't think I'm wrong, but there's no football on Saturday. So that should draw good ratings. I'm sure there's a good game on in the Big East or the Big 12 on ESPN or SEC or whatever, but that should get good numbers. Alford going back to the pit, 2 good teams. And yeah, they're both a game behind. And obviously Timothy's right. You got 6 teams up there, counting those 5 and San Diego State would be 6. Only 4 of them Timothy, 2 teams aren't going to get buys because only 4 do this year, right? Now, I think in our minds, we're all expecting, I said this a few minutes ago, we're all expecting UNLV to fall off a little bit. But who knows? Maybe they won't. Maybe it'll be somebody else, right? It could be Grand Canyon, although they're trending up and they've beaten 2 of the better teams. Maybe it's Utah State. Maybe it's Nevada. I don't know. We don't know. And that's what's interesting about it, right? But yeah, 2 teams are not going to get buys out of those 6 because you just can't. And so certainly every game is going to matter here now. Every game is going to matter starting Friday night. GCU shoots the lights out from 3, gets bailed out at the end, still barely wins at home. Unimpressed with them, lose by 10 on an average night there. Well, D-Rax, like, I'm not saying that they did shoot very well from 3. If in fact that number is right, 10 for 16, that's bonkers. Like, they're not a great shooting team. And they did get bailed out at the end, but to say you're not really impressed with them, that's, you're underselling them a little bit, because I thought they looked good again. And if you're not impressed with them, well, then you can't be impressed with San Diego State, because even if they don't call that foul there, well, the Aztecs win by 1. And GCU made shots. Basketball is about making shots. Sometimes you got to make shots to win. GCU made more shots tonight. Okay. Both teams apparently shot it well, according to the stats there. I can't believe that only has those teams for 16 misses. That doesn't even seem right, because I felt like I watched a second half there where there were plenty of misses, clanks left and right. But I guess part of that for GCU is the fact that they turned it over on every 3rd possession. They really struggled with the pressure. So in that sense, D-Rax, I'll agree. They didn't handle the pressure, didn't look great against that at all. And that's odd, because they have several veteran guards. They knew the pressure was coming. They were at home. So look, both teams played well. They were ready to go. There was high intensity. This wasn't a case like on Saturday where Utah State came in kind of not ready for the environment. San Diego State knew exactly what they were getting into. They were ready to play. They had an edge. They played hard. They played well. They just had a 8 to 10 minute dry spell early on in the second half, and they dug themselves too big of a hole. Okay. If you don't dig yourself a hole like that, you win the game. Okay. Now, of course, there's other things you can say, but that's kind of the bottom line. So, I think we'll leave it at that for that game. Like I said, really curious to watch and see how the Aztecs respond now in Vegas. I believe, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that the Rebels swept them last year. Now, for sure, there's a lot of player turnover, especially on UNLV's end, new coach. They don't really have anybody back, but there's some Aztecs that are back, and I would expect them to not or to have some memories of that, and maybe want to get back on the plus side here after dropping this one. Certainly not going to have a good taste in their mouths flying home. But look, you got to look in the mirror, like I always say, and address what you could have done better. You hate to put it on BJ Davis's shoulders, but again, make the free throws, and the result is different. Make some shots early in the second half, and the result is different. Both things can be true. The call can be bad, and you could have done things better. All right, it's not black and white, one or the other. So I get the frustration that I'm sure lies within a lot of Aztec Nation right now, but there's nothing nefarious going on. And it is what it is. Okay. So congrats to GCU. The new kid in town has just put themselves in a position here where they're 1 game back, and they have the tiebreaker over the team in front of them. So, they're going to have to go on the road and play in the Spectrum. They're going to have to go on the road and play in Viejas. They already have won at Boise. They've already won in Wyoming. And so, they've lost in the Pit. So they'll have to go to those 2 places that I mentioned. They'll have a couple other, tough trips. They'll have to go to Moby to play CSU. And I think, I could be wrong, they may not go to Nevada. I don't know now that I think about it. But, they're going to be tough to beat at home. They already lost 1 game there to CSU. Maybe they lose 1 more, but they're staring at a 15-5-ish, maybe 14-6 conference record here. And, we'll see what that lands them moving forward in the conference race. All right, let's get to the other game here, because there was one other game, and I'm fairly sure that these stats are correct, because I looked at them while we had halftime of the late game, and I could kind of study them. And so this was an odd game in this regard, okay? The Fresno, first of all, not really sure how it's allowed or how they will enforce this or any of that. But the conference has these injury reports for a reason, right? we all kind of know the underlying reason for it because it's based around gambling. Okay. And yesterday on the report, Collins was not listed anywhere. He wasn't listed as out and he wasn't listed as questionable. So that to me then, as I said on the show last night, I said he was going to play, right? Then nothing all day until about an hour before the game. Then you start getting reports that he might not play. And then all of a sudden he's not playing. Okay. And so like that changes the whole dynamic because as we saw when they played the Aztecs a few weeks ago, when they don't have Collins, they can't function. Okay. It's like, nothing I've ever seen, right? They cannot run offense. Their backup point guard is not good enough, especially against high level teams, which the 2 games without Collins have been. It's funny because I said it after they won a few games after the San Diego State game that Collins missed, that maybe Wahlberg was just kind of, I hate to use the word sandbagging, but maybe he was just knowing the situation and sitting Collins to get him healthy for winnable games. And maybe that's, he would never admit that because you don't want to get that into your players' minds that you don't have a chance. You're a big underdog and you're going to struggle to win this game. But, maybe he deep down knew, right? And maybe Collins was only 80%. And so Wahlberg figured, let's just sit him out. Let's say get him 100% for the weekend where we have a much more winnable game because this was the first 35 minutes were basically a repeat of the San Diego State game. They couldn't run offense. They had 20 some turnovers. Let's look at the numbers here. 23 points at the half, 36-23 at the half. For the game, they had 22 turnovers. The points off turnovers, 29 for New Mexico. And steals, 18 for New Mexico. That's a lot of steals in a conference game against a competent team. We know Fresno is not a top 3 or 4 team in the league. They are competent and much better than they have been the last couple years. So 18 steals against that team, 22 turnovers by that team. That's an awful lot. They couldn't handle the ball. You don't have anybody that can do it without Collins. Okay. Now, the big discussion and talking stuff after the game from Lobo Nation was the officiating. A shocker again. It seems we can't escape that. But, yeah, Larry says, I hate ref complaints, but the Mount West needs to take a serious look at these crews. Awful. Now, let me just get through this, and then I will address that, okay? Matt, good Aztec fan, says GCU shot the lights out. Got to give that. But on the foul call, like Coach Moser says, you can't call it. Yeah, you can't call it in that game, okay? And I hope, again, I don't know if it was high knees or not, but whoever blew the whistle, hopefully will get told about that. Whenever he, they observe him or give him his report or assign him his next game or take a game away from him, whatever it is, right? Yeah, I knew, Timothy, you were talking about getting the bye. Anyway, Braden's always a good follow and got good objective and thoughts on things. Hard to hate to call a ton when the right team won. Makes it a harder pill to swallow. Yeah, you allow things to be in the hands of the officials when you're down like that, right? It's and people that have been around the game, if you're Dutcher, and I'll get back to the Lobos in a second, horrible foul called to end the game. Yes. When you've been around the game for that long, like Dutcher, right? His dad was a coach. He's been watching games for 60 years, right? As he's sitting in that locker room or whatever he's doing right now as media or getting on the bus to go back to the air, wherever he is, right? He's sitting there. He's ticked off about the call, but he's also watching the film to see what else they could do wrong because he's not going to throw it on BJ for missing a front end. He's going to look at that 12-minute stretch in the second half where they couldn't score the ball. So he deep down knows that, the call sucked and it shouldn't have been made. He's also going to say, damn it, we had our best free throw shooter on the line. He doesn't miss those ever, and he missed the free throw front end. But he's not going to say either of those out loud. What he's going to do, sorry, I'm going to get this off here, is he's going to look through the film with his assistants and figure out what they need to do to not have that happen. And then I'll get back to some of these comments in a minute. But the end of the Lobo game. So look, the first half, this was wild. You very rarely see this. The first half took 40 minutes, okay? And the second half took 65 in a blowout. Like, that should never happen, Okay, that should never happen. So I think, and I didn't get into it too much with them, I think some of the anger and ire from the Lobo fans were directed at some that may have had the Lobos with the minus the points, especially with Collins out, and they are up 20, and then the Bulldogs sneak inside the number to cost some Lobo backers their cash. Okay, and so that can be frustrating. 100%, I get that, but many of those were fouls. Now I will agree with you and back you up on this. They weren't calling anything in the first half. Like I said, it literally took 40 minutes to play, and that's on a CBS Sports Network game, right? It wasn't a Mountain West Network game like we've seen San Jose State play 38-minute halves because they never blow whistles in their games when there's 50 people there and there's no fouls. Okay, this was a CBS Sportsnet game. They have longer media commercials, and the half took 40 minutes to play. That's unheard of. So again, I don't think they got a phone call at the half saying, hey, you got to stretch this one out for to get more timeouts in. I don't think that happened. For whatever reason, one or two of the guys, I know a lot of fans thought it was just one guy, decided to be, I think he got bored because the game was like a pickup game in the first half, because without Collins, all Fresno, they couldn't do anything. And as a result, New Mexico fell into the trap of making it like a ragtag pickup game, up and down, fire a three, bad shot here, bad shot there. Really horrible offense from I keep saying Aztecs, from the Lobos in the first half. Horrible. 5 for 22 from three, 22 of their 38 shot attempts were threes. That's bad, especially against a team that you should be able to out-execute on your home floor. Okay, I know Fresno's improved defensively. You should be the more disciplined team. Trust your stuff, run your stuff, get good looks. Stop settling for threes. Okay, but back to the second half when it turns into a crap show, and I know that the Lobo Nation was upset at Reber, I think his name is, the backup point guard who played minutes then because Collins was out flopping. And, yeah, does he flop? Of course. Okay. He took 9 free throws, and that's a lot for a backup point guard. Well, who got a lot of minutes tonight in a game where they're losing. But, it's not like they took 30 free throws in the second half. Okay. For the game, they took 26. Okay. Now, a lot of those were in the second half, 100%. But I'll tell you right now, Alberry's fouls are fouls. Alberry fouls. I had this very discussion last night about the UNLV guys that don't think they foul. And they do. Alberry's fouls are fouls. Okay. He ran the guy over. He's extending. That's a charge. That's a foul. Okay. I think there was one on Haupt that nobody liked. I thought that was a foul. The 3-point foul that gave Heidbreder a 4-point play, I think that was Miller. Foul. It was a foul. Minimal contact. Stop leaving your feet to block a 3-point shot when you're up 20. Stop doing it. It's dumb. Don't do it. Okay? So just like the Aztec analogy, okay, with the play at the end, what could you do differently? Stop leaving your feet on a 3-pointer when you're up 20 to block a shot. Okay? How about that? Look at what you can do differently. Because just like I said last night, you start letting all this stuff creep into your mind about the official screwed you, A, B, blah, blah, blah. That's what Utah State heard for 3 days after they lost down at Grand Canyon. And then what happened? I don't want to say they lay an egg, but they lose last night to a team they should not lose to at home. Okay? I'm not saying there's 100% correlation there, but there's something to that. All you're hearing is, oh, man, you guys got screwed. You should have won that game. And then you're like, yeah, you know what? Damn right we should have, right? And maybe you don't run, you don't set as solid a screen, or you don't box out as much, or you don't help as much, because I know some of you might think what the hell are you talking about? But I'm telling you, okay? Even if it's 10%, it makes a difference. So own up to the mistakes that you made. Did they call some ridiculous, stupid fouls? Olin got a T. He hasn't gotten one in forever. I understand he was frustrated. Look, the last 5 minutes was difficult for me to watch. And there were other Lobo fans. I know Larry said the same thing. He's in here. There were others that probably felt the same way. That was difficult to watch. And because the first half went so quick, it didn't even bleed into the San Diego State game. So I couldn't even just watch that. I had to, what else was I going to watch, right? I wasn't going to put some other game on from a different channel. I was waiting for the Aztec game to come on, and I'm stuck watching this. And it was a torturous last 5 minutes. But stop fouling. And I can't even remember who it was anymore. One of the Henry, it was a Lobo fan, said, I love my Lobos, but they fouled there at the end a lot. They did. Was every single one of them a foul? Maybe not. And were they called in the first half the same way? Maybe not. But stop fouling. You're up 20. What are you doing? Okay? So look in the mirror, watch the film, and take some accountability for it and learn from it. Okay? That's my lesson. These are just my thoughts, right? You guys hear, because I think you like hearing largely what I like to say, even if sometimes you think I'm nuts, and that's fine. Okay? Take some accountability for it. Look in the mirror and own up to what you can do better. The officials may or may not get reprimanded, okay? But you can control what you do. So fix it, okay? Pac fan, I'm assuming a Nevada guy, a nice pair of wins for GCU. Question is, can they take this on the road where they're unproven, lost at the pit, have to play 4 of the top 5 teams in the conference? That's the big thing. Absolutely. Was it BJ? Was it Heinies that made that call? Yeah, it's disappointing. Like, look, he provides good entertainment. Like, obviously, I sent out a tweet about his charge, which was a bad call, although he did get Moore got pushed from behind. I saw a replay of it later. He got pushed from behind, and then he ran somebody over. The guy was probably moving, so it should have been a block, but he couldn't see the push from behind. Maybe one of the trails did. But I just love the movement and the pose that Anderson gives. He's not a very good official. He's rated highly in KenPom because he gets all kind of Big East and Big Ten games, and those fans hate his guts. They think he's terrible. He's obviously out there to just be seen. And hey, say what you want. He's worked his way up. He's been evaluated and gotten to that spot, so he can do what he wants. And he's probably saying to himself, "Screw you," right? He laughs, and it is what it is. Okay. Not a good call by Heinies. It's disappointing that he's the one that made the call. Is what it is. So just finishing up there in New Mexico, look, this was never, and I said this before I knew the status of Collins, whether it was last night or Saturday, this was a tough spot for them coming off of the game against the Aztecs, and they've offered coming to the pit on Saturday. This was going to be a tough ask for them to be up and ready to play 40 minutes. And, they weren't. They kicked it into gear in the second half. They played a better second half. It got stupid and choppy in the last 5 minutes, which was disappointing, but that's what happens. Now, before I resume the comments here, okay? Timothy, what's with the refs? 23 fouls in Mexico, 13 on Fresno. Yeah, I mean, look, I know maybe one guy went rogue. I don't know. I know some followers, McKenzie, a couple others said it was just one guy. I don't know that I was paying that much attention to it because, again, I had mentally checked out. I was getting frustrated. But here's what I want to say about the officials. And this will apply next year, too, whether you're a fan of a team going to the Pac or you're a fan of a team staying in the Mountain West, okay? And somebody pointed this out when the discussion came up the other day about the bad crew that was in GCU for the Utah State game, okay? Here's the deal with these officials, right? BJ points us out all the time how some of these guys fly all over the place night after night after night after night. The top guys do, okay? But most of the guys, okay, they stay central, kind of local. How am I trying to say this? Not local or central, but near where their other games are. So they're not going to do a game in Phoenix and then do a game in Minneapolis the next night, by and large, and then fly out to San Diego and then go back to UConn, okay? They're going to stay and do a Big West game and then do a Big Sky game, do a Mountain West game, okay? And because there are fewer games and fewer conferences out west, especially fewer high-level conferences, the better guys stay east. They just do, okay? And so I know that the consortium or the agreement or alliance or whatever you want to call it will have different guys next year for the two conferences. I think a lot of us are fooling ourselves if we think we're automatically going to get the best guys because we're getting rid of the guys that the Mountain West leftovers get from the Big Ten, okay? I could be wrong, and sometimes I am. Not often. Sometimes I am. I don't know that I'm wrong about this, okay? You're going to get some bad crews because the guys that come out west are out here to do other games in the conferences that the Hammers don't come out to do, Okay. So let me be wrong and let me see it in 10 months. And then you come back to me with some evidence and say that. But that's what it is. It is, some guys will do that, but not every guy wants to fly all over the continent, all over, well, it is a continent, but all over the country. They don't want to do that. They don't want to be in Florida on Tuesday and the Pit on Wednesday, and then back into Michigan State on Thursday. Like, they don't want to do that. They will go from Albuquerque to Southern California to Oregon, because those are a lot shorter trips. It's a lot less taxing on your body. All right. It's a lot more rest for you. And so the guys don't, do the Big West games or the Big Sky games. So I just, that's a large part of it. It really is. It's a large part of it. And that's not going to change next year. I really don't think so. Okay. Raynard, Lopes knocking out the top two teams in a conference. I mean, I think at this point now you have to bump New Mexico ahead of Utah State, but two of the top three for sure. But I don't know if they should win the conference title. They have an opportunity to win the conference title. I am curious to see updated odds. I'll have to look at that. I haven't looked in a while. I'm sure the Aztecs will still be favored, but I'm curious what it is below that and how big of a favorite they are at this point. T-Mac says, I rarely blame the refs. It was an awful call that cost him the game. It contributed. There's no doubt. Yes, Richard, appreciate your perspective there. Terrible call, but got to hit your free throws. That's what I like to hear, Richard. Both things can be true. Terrible call, make your free throw, and we don't get that call, okay? So I don't know what to tell you. The 11th ranked ref, all three were in the top 12, so veteran crew. I can't believe Heine. So again, when BJ puts these numbers out there, for Ken Palm, everything that hit on his website has a something that gets you these numbers. But for the officials, it's hard, right? Because the things are, they're subjective, right? We all disagree with half the calls they make, okay? But that's based on who you're rooting for, right? So you can't say, well, that was a bad call, so he's a lower ranked ref. It's based on the games you do. And that's why Heinies is ranked 11th, because he does Big East and Big Ten games, whether he's good or not. He does Providence, UConn on a Saturday, and then he does Michigan State, Indiana on a Monday. And I guess, maybe he's going to do a game in the Big Ten at UCLA or USC, although they both played in the last two nights. Maybe he did a UCLA game last night. I really don't know. But he was out here, and he got the game, and this will keep him ranked high because he was ranked highly. Okay. You heard the foul was called on Bird. Yeah, clean block for sure. Yeah, so Davis did kind of get him. There was contact from BJ, okay? No doubt. BJ made slight contact there. Bird, absolutely not. Bird was clean as a whistle on the ball, right? BJ touched him a little bit. And so with 14 minutes left in the game, if the fouls are 4-0 against the other side, you'll get that call because you need to make one. And there's bodies near each other, so you can justify that call. But you can't call that like in the last second, literally second, right? Lopes are playing good ball right now, Tim. They are. They're playing good defense. Evans has changed things. These are things I mentioned, but Drew has changed his rotation. And most importantly, Brian Moore is playing at the level that we expected, or most people expected. They can be veterans, still have a bad night. Yeah, that's true, D-Rax. Yeah, they didn't have a very good night. They were bad at the end of the first half, and he made a bad call at the end. Tyler, admittedly a biased Aztecs fan, 30-plus years, can't remember a game stolen from my team like that. I mean, again, yeah, it stinks when you fought your way back, and that call does determine the game, because if they don't blow the whistle there, the Aztecs win. So from that perspective, I can see that angle. If that whistle isn't blown, then San Diego State wins the game. Okay, so that is a fact. There are other things that go into the game. Okay, so you can look at it a bunch of different ways. Simmons grabbed the shoulder. That's who should have gotten the call. Makai's ridiculous bounce was hindered from going up. Makai showed his explosiveness every night. Yeah, he's been impressive. Okay, Mark, I agree with you. There was a minimal amount of contact. I still wouldn't call it. So Tim says the foul was called on Simmons, and so that's why. You replayed it 10 times, couldn't see anything resembling a foul. BJ should have made the free throws. I agree. Yeah, that's like, again, it's tough to put it all on him, and Dutcher won't do that, but that's a fact, right? It's a fact. Good info, John says, on the officiating crew. Yeah, I mean, look, you got a good crew. So that should just go to show you, for everybody that was complaining about the crew on Saturday in the same arena that was poor, you had a good crew here, and they still made a call that impacted the game. So it doesn't matter who we get, we're going to complain about calls. And I'm telling you right now, I don't know about you guys, I don't watch a lot of other conferences during this time, right? Because all my time is occupied with our Mountain West games. But I'm on Twitter where I see fans of the SEC and the ACC and the Big East and the Big Ten rip their officials all the time. So, I don't, what do you want? Do you want robots? Like, we're getting robot umps in baseball. Do you want robots? Okay. Human error is part of stuff. It's just like coaches making a bad call. It's just like players missing a shot. Like, it's human. Does it stink when one goes against you? Of course it does. As a coach who's been in the game for 4 decades, Dutcher, I'm sure, has learned to accept that as much as it sucks. Okay. Yeah. Doesn't take being an Aztec fan to see that. Even GCU fans should be able to. Yeah, I mean, I would think that GCU fans would say that it wasn't a great call. Matthew, yes, they dug a hole when they pulled Simmons and Harrington. I agree. I don't know why Harrington was on the bench at the end of the game. He was playing very well. GCU was 16 turnovers. Stats don't look right. Yeah. Wait till the Lopes come to Viejas. Yeah, certainly. They're going to be heavy underdogs when they travel to both places that they just beat. 100%. Stats look off at ESPN too. Yeah, maybe they'll fix it tomorrow, Matt, and I'll check both schools' website for the box score. I don't know if I'll get 2 different ones or if it will be one. Don't know for a fact how long San Diego State's in San Diego State, New Mexico. Yeah, it might come down to those 2. Let's see. San Diego State had an off night. Their defense kept them in it. Yeah, and that's they've gotten better there. Okay, we talked about that last night. Somebody was in here with a comment about take away the Michigan game, and their numbers are good. And yeah, you could see it tonight. I don't know what the numbers showed on the glass, but I thought they did a decent job on the glass. Okay, GCU has some explosive players. And let's face it, GCU shot an abnormal percentage from 3. Okay, agree about the great home court environment. Key lost an 8-leg parlay there on San Diego State. That hurts. Matt Simmons, very good at the end. He's inconsistent, but look, you're going to get that from freshmen, especially on the road. And T-Mac, yeah, thank you. Like, I sent a tweet out about that, and I didn't even address it in the New Mexico game. I said Bird Chol 3-point contest tomorrow because Chol, I think he made his last 2 and then he stopped, but he was 0 for 7. And man, it was like John Starks, dude, stop shooting threes. Okay. Like 0 for 7. What are you doing here? Okay. And then he made 2 more, but Bird, it was like, you got to know when you're not on. All right. And try something different. He just took too many. Should have driven to the basket bunch. But yeah, there's no doubt Bird played great defense. 100%. Absolutely. So thank you, Tim. Okay. Now that's more like it. Okay. I knew I wasn't that nuts. Aztecs 24 for 61, GCU 19 for 50. So I can do the math there. That's 38%. As far as San Diego State, 24 out of 60 would be 12 out of 30 is 2 out of 5. So that's 40%. So the Aztecs shot 40% and the Lopes shot 38%. So neither team shot well. I knew those numbers were wrong on that website. So, yeah. Okay. Let's see what else. I want to talk about Friday night quickly. Oh, I want to address one other thing, and Aztec fans will appreciate this. The big news in college today, and I touted the NCAA last week when they changed their transfer window until after the end of the tournament. And now today we have this ridiculousness. This isn't the NCAA's fault right now, but we have this guy that for Alabama, Charles Bediako. I'm not even sure how to pronounce it, Bediako, who actually played in that Sweet 16 game for Alabama. when the Aztecs upset him 3 years ago to go to the Final Four. He played in that game. He declared for the draft. He did not get drafted. He's played in a G League for 3 years. Never played in the NBA, but he's played in a G League. He is now sued and was given a temporary restraining order for 10 days or a week or something like that to play for Alabama. And it says he's going to suit up on Saturday against Tennessee. So this is absolute nonsense. Not going to talk about it for long because I don't think it's really going to impact the Mountain West much, but it's absolute nonsense, okay, that you can allow this. And the NCAA doesn't want to allow it, don't get me wrong. But it's the fact that they've allowed other crap for so long that people just decide, well, hey, we're going to throw lawsuits out the window or throw lawsuits at the dartboard and see what sticks and just try something because they'll always back down because they're afraid of getting sued or whatever it is, right? So you can't allow this stuff here because then it's just going to be like, well, I tried to go to the NBA. Like this dude he's been out in the pros for 3 years. And this isn't European 3 years. This was here. It's just wild, okay? And so we'll see what the court ruling rules in a week or so. And I'm interested if he plays Saturday. Like, has he been practicing with Alabama for the last 3 months? How do you just pick up a guy and put him into your rotation like that? I don't get it. What is this, like pickup ball or AAU? Like, who does that? You've had guys practicing with you for the last freaking 6 months from the summer or fall on, and now you're just going to throw a guy into the lineup because he used to be on your team 5 years ago? Like, come on. That's a little – I would never do that. I mean, I guess that's easy for me to say. You know, you got a guy who's got pro talent, and you want – that's just bizarre. I can't believe that's going to happen. T-Mac, I didn't expect San Diego State to go undefeated. Lost, could have won if we made free throws, need to move on. Yeah, again, it's one loss. I said the same thing about Utah State. They didn't listen to me, and I don't expect them to. But, you know, after the GCU game was one loss, move on. They didn't, okay? You need to as an Aztec fan in a program. Otherwise, you're in for a dogfight on Saturday. Now, you know the home crowd won't care, right? They're not going to be there. But, you know, anyway, okay. So, yeah, I wanted to talk about that quickly, and we'll see how that goes, okay? Bill says the 3-point variance, and that's a huge thing with college hoops today. 3-point variance. It's all about shooting threes. GCU shooting 10 for 16. Well, that number probably didn't end up right, assuming the stats were all wrong, but they did shoot a pretty good percentage. You shoot that, you're going to win most nights, okay, the way you play defense. All right? Exactly. Losing on the road by 1 point, no shame in that. And inches from greatness. Credit the Aztecs for hanging tough on an off shooting night. Simmons down a stretch. Yeah. So I appreciate some of the perspectives here. Still in first place. Hurts to have you have to have a short memory. You have to move on. You can't let one loss beat you twice. Okay. Curtis says, an Aztec fan, I agree with you. They shot 3 of 18 from 3. That's bad. Shot poor because Grand Canyon sped the Aztecs up on offense. Good observation and good perspective, Curtis. They forced poor 3-point shots. The officiating in the Mountain West is poor. There's no doubt it is. And I know these comments are 20 minutes late because I Patino Bowl on Saturday is Alford coming back to town. Oh, is it, Larry? I didn't even know that. So Xavier St. John's is Xavier St. John's. Xavier lost at the buzzer tonight. That's interesting that they have St. John's on Saturday. I did not know that. So that's probably primetime TV. So that will get some eyeballs on Saturday night. I'll have to check that out. Officiating was terrible. Which seed plays Air Force first? That is like a bye, 100%. So the 5 seed will get Air Force in the first round. Yeah. Great race to the top of Mountain West this year, 100%, Matt. Rewatch the final call. Check out the ref that made the call where he was at. Yeah, I will do that, as a matter of fact. CBS app stats are correct. Field goal percentage was lower for both teams. GCU shot higher percentage from 3. I'll check that out in the morning. Thank you, Matt. Lobo game was ugly. Steve, win is a win, 100%. If BJ makes the free throws, they would have won. Matt says he notices that too about the ref and the angle. I know I'm throwing these on here quickly because I had a lot while I was going on and on. I can't believe I just can't shut up. I thought I would go for 45 minutes here, and I'm almost at an hour. But again, another night in the Mountain West. Like, what do you expect? We get good stuff to talk about. GCU comes to Lawler. Nevada does not go to GCU. Okay, so edge Nevada there. Okay, edge Nevada there. I think then maybe GCU might not go to Moby, in fact, as I think about it. Okay. Love the technical by Olin. Need to finally see some fire from him. Yeah, that's good. You're right. I like that too. UNLV hosts San Diego State and New Mexico their next 2 games. Interesting. Yes. Okay. Because everybody's been saying now today, well, they just beat Utah State. They'll lose to Air Force next. Well, they don't have that opportunity because they have to play 2 heavy hitters, probably the 2 best teams in the league next, San Diego State and New Mexico. Okay. Yeah, I agree with you, Key. I'd be upset too if I lose money because of a missed free throw. That's part of gambling, though, unfortunately. It happens all the time. GCU comes to Nevada next Tuesday. That will be interesting. Okay. As a Lobo fan, I didn't think the officials were biased, just poor. Made the game unenjoyable experience. Olin got his first tech in 8 years. Yeah, I agree with you, Isaac, 100%, right? I didn't think they were biased. They made too many calls late, and it got a little goofy. Coach Tom for the win. I don't even remember. That was 20 minutes ago, so I don't know what I said. I got a lot of wins, some losses, but several wins. We're bleeding blue here. It's not that they don't foul. It's that there isn't consistency. 100%. Okay, against San Diego State, half those fouls are allowed as physical play. Should be allowed to play the same game. I agree, but that's where it's difficult because we're humans and the crews are going to vary from game to game and they call things differently. It's unfortunate, but yeah, I agree with you. And Larry said the same thing. The worst part was a sudden change in the whistle the last 8 minutes. Nothing was called the first 32 minutes. Totally agree with you. Brooks says the same thing. Wasn't the plays you – oh, this is different. Yeah, it is the same. Off-ball fouls that were called, whistles that weren't called going the other direction. Has Lobo Nation cursed and refs. I understand. I get it. Okay, let's see. All right, middle of the conference is wide open this year, Matt, 100%. Top and middle is 2. Foul, Tim says, was called on Simmons. Yep. Olin had high expectations for this game. That was a technical. Interesting. He thought they were soft. Okay. Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear him say that, to be honest with you. I agree. Can't leave it in the hands of the ref. Time to move on to the next opponent. Appreciate that perspective too, T-Mac. Bird was bad on offense. Yeah, he was. I mean, he helped defensively, but that's why I said when he's out on the floor there, I don't consider Simmons like an offensive threat right now, or DeGorville. And DeGorville made a big shot, but that's like a high school team where you have 3 guys out on the floor that you don't really have to focus on defensively. It's like, man, and I know you got to give Bird some respect because of his credentials and pedigree, but man, he just wasn't shooting the ball. Big Ten officials let the guys play. Horrible call. Yeah, and there's no doubt about it. Okay, so let's talk about Friday night real quick. Aztecs won the rebound battle 36-34. Thanks for the broadcast. Glad you're around to do the recaps. I appreciate you guys being here to watch. It's 2:30. I thought that I would get out of here a little earlier, but we'll go 5 minutes on the Friday game, okay? This is interesting here, right? T-Mac, I appreciate that. Massive appreciation for that. Okay, so listen. Utah State, I hate to say it, this is like a crossroads game for you, okay? You go to Moby, right? Solo game, Friday night. Now, when you played the first time, you won by 40, but Bemba was out, and Jorgensen got injured 3 minutes in, maybe 4 minutes in. You were already up 10-0, so I don't think that you were going to lose that game, right? You were at home. You were really playing well at that point. The Rams were starting to kind of waver a little bit, had fallen out of their hot shooting rhythm, but it wouldn't have been a 40-point game. Plus, it totally disrupted everything that they were doing, losing your key cog at that point, okay? Now, they're fully healthy, okay? Jorgensen is now at 2 games to get reacclimated. Bemba has looked great for 2 weeks. They're back at home, comfortable. They got a walk through last night against Air Force, okay? I'm not saying they're playing great basketball, but I saw enough when they lost the game on Friday at Boise that I thought that was a good game. They showed fight coming back in that game. They showed fight for a little bit coming back in the loss to Fresno. So it's not like they fall down and just quit. Okay, they haven't done that. So they're going to be ready to go here. They sense a wounded animal coming into their gym. And, if the Aggies don't shore things up, Devin at the game says a GCU student, I think if Goon was playing, we would have lost. I don't know. Maybe. He hasn't been that impactful this year, right? He had one good game, but I think he's, and Aztec fans will say this, and there's nothing wrong with this because he's in that position, not us. He's got a pro future, $1 million future, and it's weighing on him mentally like his injury. So you hate to see that. I get it. It stinks. But that's kind of where he is. So he's not the player he was a year ago at this point. Hopefully he gets back there. But I said this a little bit ago. I don't know if you can count on that anymore as an Aztec fan. So it's almost like you take what you can get from him at this point. Okay. Now, what are we going to get? Like I would think and hope, because I didn't even realize this until I did it this morning when I was at school, that when the Aggies took that 58-44 lead last night, okay, with 12:44 to go, from that point forward, UNLV scored on 19 of their final 21 possessions. Now, the last 4 were fouls, okay, and they made free throws. But even if you take that last minute and a half and 4 possessions away, subtract 4 and 4, then UNLV scored on 15 of their last 17 possessions, from the 12:44 mark to the minute 10 mark. Okay, that is unacceptable if you're Utah State. And I had thought at times that their defense was trending up, getting better. Calhoun's mixing things up. That's not going to win you games against anybody with a pulse. Okay, and the Rebels were playing confident. You just can't do that, man. You can't do that. You got to get a stop somewhere. Now, did UNLV make some shots in there? Of course they did. Did they make some outside shots? I should say they did. But several of them were in the paint. They were better in the paint. Were the Rebels, and a couple of them were offensive rebounds. Somebody got to get tough and get a stop, get a rebound, dig in, something. Like you need one stop, maybe 2, but you need a stop. 2 stops wins you the game. Okay, they couldn't get it, and that's why they lost the game. So I'm going to assume, again, Calhoun probably didn't sleep last night, or went to bed at 4 when I did, okay? He's watching film. He knows. He sees the stat sheet. He knows exactly what I just said. He probably knew it 20 minutes after the game instead of 8 hours after the game, like I figured it out. So I would have strongly assumed that today, being yesterday, Wednesday, and later today for me, tomorrow for you guys, Thursday, their emphasis is going to be defense in practice, okay? Because if they're not engaged defensively, the Rams will run them around the court and get open looks. Okay. Now, Pasquarelli hasn't been lighting it up lately. Rex Steiner, it's kind of been what he's been. Butler's been starting now, and he's been shooting the ball a little bit better. Booth can knock shots down. Muniz off the bench played well, I thought, last night. Now, again, it was Air Force. But if they're not ready to play defense tomorrow on Friday, they're going to be in a dogfight again. Okay. And then we're getting back to they're cooked. I had a Keller, good follower. He said today he thinks if they go, I forget what his benchmark was, but was it 14-6? I think it was 14. He said 15-5 would get them in, as long as like one of them isn't to whoever down at the bottom. But that only allows them 3 losses, right? And they have to go to the pit. They have to go to Viejas. They have to host those teams yet. So that would require them to win one of those or both of their home games and then only lose one more game, okay? Because you go 14-6, that gives you 7 losses because you have 1 non-con. Then you're going to lose a game in a conference tournament. That's 8. You don't have a lot of Q1 wins, maybe none, maybe 1. You're asking for trouble, and you have to beat Memphis then, okay, who did lose tonight. They should beat Memphis. But, I don't know, okay? One-on-one battles. Yeah, you got to win some one-on-one battles, Aggie. Yeah, 100%. We've talked about this. Let's get Gary Clark back in there going, right? He was a dude in November and December, and now he's kind of lost his mojo here. Templin's been playing better, but if you can give Tucker Anderson a few minutes, we can give Gary Clark some more. He won that VCU game for him on that Rat Network that we watched that stream on, what seems like 8 months ago. He won that VCU game. He was great in the non-con largely. Let's get him going. All right. They have Jorgensen and Bemba, but it's not like they come at you with wave after wave of big and physical and tough, right? That's a game where Gary Clark can get it done on the glass. Let's get Gary Clark going, right? Yeah, need Clark. I agree. I mean, I don't, El Amin's been very good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying in lieu of El Amin, but let's show some different lineups out there. I mean, who knows, right? Somebody said, GCU broke Utah State. We'll find out in 48 hours. We'll find out in 48 hours. I appreciate you saying this, Devin, that the guy whose phone number was leaked was wrong and you don't improve it. He was a beast. Yeah, false love, right? Yeah, we shouldn't be doing that stuff. Okay, obviously that goes without saying. But anyway, we're going to find out, because if you lose that game, forget about like all the other stuff. That's 3 in a row. Your confidence is gone, and it's like, all right, well, now we just got to fight for whatever. Okay, but you go here, you get a nice road win, you stabilize yourself, you get back on the winning track. I haven't looked at the schedule beyond that to see what they would have, but that's. And CSU's not going to feel sorry for him, right? They're trying to improve their play too and get out of the 7, 8, 9 hole wherever they are right now, to move up. And I've always said get the top 4 seed, as Larry pointed out. You'll settle for the 5 seed this year, right? You can get some guys practice, get some bench guys some run against Air Force, all of that stuff. So, all right, I've gone for over an hour. There's plenty of you in here, plenty of conversation. I really appreciate it. Back-to-back nights here, you guys showed up and showed out for me. Appreciate you. Love you all. It's 2:36 again. Sun Cruiser, my guys, my sponsors, my drink. All right, let's support Sun Cruiser. Circa Las Vegas. Off tomorrow. So that'll be a deserved, I guess. I shouldn't say well-deserved. Needed, much needed night off. Try to get some early sleep. And then we're back Friday. So it's just a 1-game Friday. I'll be in right after. I don't even know. I think maybe it's a 10:30 Eastern start. So 12, I'm sure that means 10:45, because these networks, again, it's like they automatically now need to back it up 15 minutes. It drives me nuts, but whatever. So 10:30 start, 10:45 start. So 12:45, 1 o'clock finish. So I'll be here 1 o'clock. I will try. I promise I will be less than an hour on Friday, unless it's like something ridiculous at the end of the game. I will preview Saturday's games. We got 5 games Saturday. I will preview the Saturday games. I will break down the Friday game. If there's any other breaking news or stuff to talk about in the conference or across the country, I'll talk about that. Take your questions, take your comments. Appreciate you guys again doing all that here. At the bottom, there it is right there, at Mountain West BNN. Go subscribe, please. Please go subscribe. Appreciate all of you being here. Another night in the Mountain West, and it was another night in the Mountain West. So we'll take an off day tomorrow, and then we'll be back at it in 40 hours. Hopefully, all of you guys will be along for the ride as well. Thanks for being here. Get some rest. See you guys soon.